Starry, starry night. Never saw Don McLean in concert, but I would like to. I always liked him. Anyway, I was talking to some people the other night, and concerts came up, and I was thinking about concerts I've been to in my life. And there's one in particular I always like to tell the story of, and a lot of people have heard it, but I thought I'd do it again here just for posterities. I don't know. Um, but just as a lead in, I was trying to remember groups I've seen, real concerts, not some kind of local thing or whatever. And I believe the first real concert I ever went to was in college, and I reluctantly went to see Rod Stewart. I didn't know much about him at the time. He seemed to be mostly popular with women. And there was a girl at college said, "Oh, we're going to go see Rod Stewart. You should come." And I was like, "I don't know, but you kind of do what girls tell you to do." So I went to see Rod Stewart, and I really liked him. And let's see, I went to see Bob Seger. He was good. And so always liked Fleetwood Mac. I saw them, and then a few years later, I saw Stevie Nicks solo. Now, the interesting thing about Stevie Nicks, her opening act was Peter Frampton, who I always liked. But, I remember when we were riding down into the city, which we, generously call Pittsburgh. And I said, a few years ago, it would have been the other way around. Stevie Nicks would have been pleased to be opening for Peter Frampton. And then as we're going down into the city, and we have WDVE on, I don't know if that's still the major rock station in Pittsburgh, but and the guy came on there and he said, Stevie Nicks, is that the, I don't remember if I think it was Civic Arena. Pretty sure Civic Arena, not Heinz Hall. I think they both have different names now, but who cares? Anyway, he says Stevie Nicks is at the arena tonight, and the opening act is Peter Frampton. And he said, interesting enough, I forget if he said, 10 years, 5 years ago, or whatever, he said, Fleetwood Mac actually opened for Peter Frampton at one point. So that was interesting. Who else did I write down? Okay. Now this wasn't a music concert, but I saw Steve Martin at Heinz Hall. I think that was like my first year of college. He was just catching on, and he was great. But the interesting musical note about that is his opening act was a guy by the name of John Sebastian, which sounded familiar to me. I couldn't think of who he was. And then he mentioned about that he was in Loving Spoonful, and I thought, I should have known that. And but I still couldn't really remember. I knew I'd heard of the Loving Spoonful and stuff and heard their music, couldn't think of anything offhand. And then he said, but mostly everybody recognizes me when I play this song, and he starts playing Welcome Back, the thing from, Welcome Back, Kotter, and everybody's like, oh, it's that guy. I think there was something else I was thinking. Oh, just another little side note. So that was there was like 4 or 5 of us from college going down to see Steve Martin that night. And we're talking about him in the car driving down. And one of my friends, and I actually still remember his name, which is somewhat unusual, Jack Grove. And Jack was a great guy, and he'd been all over the world. I think his father was in the diplomatic corps, or whatever. He grew up in England. But anyway, we're going down and we're talking about Steve Martin, and he always had banjo in his act, and I don't know if it was me or somebody else said, actually, he's actually pretty good. He does it for comedy, but he's actually pretty good with the banjo. And you're like, yeah, he is. And Jack said, yeah, he plays the piano good too. And I was like, really? I did not know that, and I thought I knew about Steve Martin pretty good. I'd read a lot of articles on him and stuff. I can't remember if I don't think he had his first appearance on Saturday Night Live yet, and that's when his career really went. But anyway, and Jack was on, yeah, he used to play piano on his TV show, and I said, Jack, do you realize you just paid $15, which at the time was an expensive concert ticket? I said, do you realize you just paid $15 to Steve Martin, and you're actually thinking of Steve Allen? So, I guess you had to be there at the time, but it was fun. Anyway, the concert that I really wanted to talk about, and I don't know if, like I said, the one I remember, Stevie Nicks and Bob Seger. I mentioned Bob Seger, Rod Stewart, all great musicians. And I know there's some others that I can't think of right now. I just wrote these down 2 minutes before starting this. They were all great concerts, good music. Hey, anything better than Bob Seger thinking about turning the page and stuff. But me, this was after college when I was living in Pittsburgh, and me, Bobby, and Pam went to see Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Now this was somewhere around, I'm thinking 81 or 82, maybe a little later. But anyway, I thought for sure I was going to be like the kid there. I thought it was going to be all these like old 60s hippies going to see Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and we got down to the arena. Yeah, it was definitely at the arena. We're going in, and there's like all these like 14-year-old girls and stuff. And I thought, did they go to the wrong concert or what? I even said at one point, what's all these kids doing here? And Bobby said, well, they just came out with that new album. I said, okay, that makes sense. So anyway, we get to where we're going, and we're in our seats, and the concert starts, and Crosby, Stills, and Nash comes out, and they start playing, and they were good. And, they, of course, were playing new songs, because they're there to sell their album. And then they started into one of their oldies. And when they hit the chorus, of course, we started singing along. Don't you ever ask them why? And I looked around, and it was like all these like 14-year-old girls and 18-year-old guys, whatever. They're all singing along. I thought, oh wow, they know that song. And then later on, they play a couple more new ones, and later on they start one of their old ones again and again. Everybody out in the place is singing, our house is a very, very, very fine house. I was just like, it took me aback, that these kids knew music that was then, well, I guess it wasn't real old right then. He's probably maybe 15 years old or so. Anyway, still, I thought it weird, but after a bit, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, they took a break. Well, Crosby and Nash did, and there you had a couple of other guys. I think they had like a bass player and a drummer, not a big band. They all left except for Stephen Stills. stayed on stage, just playing piano, not singing, just playing instrumental. And I thought, oh, this must be the way they do their intermission, instead of just leaving people sitting there or, you know, playing music through the speakers or whatever, because it was like, I believe, like a 3-hour concert. And they were gone for 10, 15 minutes, whatever, and then they came back out. And Crosby says, you know, we just did something for you people we've never done before. He said, but we can see what it is you want. And we just went back there and we rewrote our entire set list. And for the rest of the night, it's going to be all the old stuff. And of course, the whole place went nuts, cheering and clapping. And I always just thought that was so cool because, you know, first of all, you know that the record company probably wouldn't be pleased with that because the whole idea is supposed to be out there selling the new record. But they just wanted to give the fans what the fans wanted. And I just thought that was very decent and a great thing to do. So, yeah, it was considered that my favorite concert ever. And I have to do some thinking now, try to remember some of the other concerts I've been to that weren't on that list. But anyway, I hope you've all had experiences like that. You know what Socrates said, music is life and life is music. So, peace out, everybody. Go listen to some songs.